The work of Italian filmmaker Paolo Sorrentino, pretty much since the very beginning, has been characterized by their unwavering indulgences in decadence and hedonism, observing the absurdity of wealth and freedom while imbued with an intense desire to search for the many beauties in life, which, in the case of this new film, largely extends to the beauty of women. But by and large, his works are all sun-drenched, stylish romps that take advantage of the staggering beauty of his native Italy, and possess a deeply seductive gaze that looks toward both the lavish surroundings and their attractive inhabitants. Many of his detractors are quick to point out that his films can feel like extended fragrance commercials, and while those criticisms are not entirely off base, I found his most recent endeavors, The Hand of God and now Parthenope, to be some of his most profound efforts to date. This latest work is the first of his to center around a female protagonist, where his films like Loro, The Great Beauty, and Youth used women as background fodder, their bodies disposable, used purely for pleasure. Sorrentino now creates a female character, still transfixing in her beauty, but that is intelligent and mysterious, engaging with the many questions his male characters have grappled with across his entire oeuvre, such as what deeper meaning can be found beneath the surface of a life of debauchery and excess. Off the coast of Naples is where we meet the titular character of Sorrentino's film, Parthenope. We see her emerge from the sea in a string bikini, smoking a cigarette and leaving a male onlooker completely mesmerized. Named after a Greek siren, this ravishing beauty and intellectually curious young woman spends her days lounging around the many beautiful locales of Naples and reading the work of American writer John Cheever, seemingly indifferent to the so-called disruption her beauty causes, and unaware of how to exactly harness her beauty for her grand aspirations. As while everyone around her views her as something to be possessed, an object to gawk at and continually pine for, what Parthenope truly desires is found in the world of academia, in the field of anthropology that she aspires to fully envelop herself in, to the dismay of the objectifying gazes pointed her direction. Following Parthenope over the course of many decades, we trace the many digressions, transformations, and tragedies that make up her life's journey. The film often jumps forward in time, some jumps far greater in time than the last, as the titular character cycles through various lovers and experiences a range of shifting emotions, inching ever closer to self-discovery. We observe her passion for the city, academia, her conflicting feelings toward her family and first loves, the churn of a carefree, languorous Capri summer. Parthenope, the character, and the film unearth emptiness and solitude beneath the city's extravagant surface. Many of the opportunities afforded to her because of her beauty don't exactly lead to a freedom in this life of decadence, but instead it evokes an immense sense of melancholy in her, from the utter isolation such a life brings forth. Parthenope says in the film, in a moment of reflection, that like Naples, where there is room for everything, I was alive and alone. This single line encapsulates the very essence of Naples for this luminous young woman, a city that Sorrentino depicts as a sight brimming with marvels at every turn, where every which way you look you find displays of wealth, depravity, and wonder, but of which you can feel the most alone. This idea has been a constant in the cinema of Sorrentino, whose The Great Beauty was a tale of lost loves in a decaying city of decadence, or in Loro, about a man who stuffs his life with empty excess just to try and feel something. His works are all intertwined in the way they view depravity and grandeur as a facade in the search for meaning in life, weaving in equal measure tragedy and comedy, splendor and melancholy. Sorrentino's decadent portraits of a city, its people and places are of course heavily inspired by the work of Federico Fellini, particularly in the mix of the sacred and profane, and his fascination with excess. Across his films, you can easily find points of comparisons to La Dolce Vita, Amarcord, or 8½, just to name a few, but in Parthenope, I feel as if it is most closely related to La Dolce Vita, in its picaresque series of eccentric and extravagant images, and how it creates this real sense of distorted memory, personal experiences clashing with dreamlike imagery. Both filmmakers have had similar criticism tossed their way due to their deep interest in the vacuity of society, which can appear on the surface to glorify opulence and depravity. But with both Hand of God and Parthenope, I feel as if Sorrentino has made a turn. His gaze has become less caustic and much more warm and nostalgic. While less overtly autobiographical than 2021's Hand of God, this film still feels incredibly personal, harnessing a deep familiarity to the milieu where he shoots his environments through a much more loving lens than some of his earlier works. But there is still present, like within Parthenope herself, a clearly complicated relationship with this city, with a world that may revere the beauty on the outside, but can't truly grasp or make sense of its most elusive, illogical parts. It really reflects a filmmaker drawn to the richness of a city, but torn by its many contradictions. Parthenope's lead actress, Celeste Dalla Porta, is ravishing in her first on-screen performance. She is constantly centered in the frame, asked to express a wave of emotion with just a simple glance, and she mesmerizes. For all the time you spend with her, she remains a mysterious figure throughout, a woman constantly reinventing herself and always just out of reach, but someone with such an overwhelming presence. Gary Oldman plays a small, cameo-ish role as the American writer John Cheever, who is a rare man that Parthenope deeply admires. He is also the sole male figure in her life that doesn't lust after her, telling her that he wouldn't want to steal 1 minute of her youth from her. It's a quiet, touching moment in a film that is a sumptuous feast for the senses. Parthenope is a very seductive film that lures you in with its vivid, lavish images of beautiful people living in beautiful places, but that also unveils a sadness baked deep within it. Sorrentino's film shows us the limitations of language, what we are able to express and what remains entirely unsaid, as Parthenope is a mystery, her lack of self-realization making her unknowable in the eyes of those around her and us, entirely alone in a city that, like her, is an enigma hard to decipher. And yet Sorrentino's love for this character, for the city of Naples, is so palpable within every moment of the film. He's made something that seeks to embody the very essence of youth and possibility, how easy it is to get swept up by the immensity of life and the ways in which it will eventually pass us all by. It moved me, perplexed me, and captivated me. It's a film that truly only Paolo Sorrentino could have pulled off.